Okay, so I had a guy send me a couple of Sony Handycams. They're 8mm camcorders from the 90s. This one is a CCD-FX425. This one is a CCD-FX620. So let's go ahead and check them out one at a time and see what they do. Okay, so as you can see, this one is the CCD-FX620, and it's in really good shape. It's virtually in mint condition. I don't see really any cosmetic defects on the unit whatsoever. I have my power pack connected to it, so let's go ahead and turn the power on and see what we get here on the display. So I do get the blinking clock, which indicates the backup battery is dead, and I show a full battery and no cassette. So let's see if it wants to go ahead and eject the door open. And it does. Man, this thing looks mint inside. Oh my goodness. This thing looks like it's had virtually 0 hours on it. Well, let's pop a tape into it and see what it does. So I have an 8mm tape here. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that or not. Let me move the mic closer. So that tells me that it may have a problem in the switch mode power supply based on the sound that it makes. Because as I recall, these have a little compact switching power supply that converts the 6 volts going into the unit back here to different voltages that the unit may need. Now the other thing I noticed, I did do a little bit of checkout before I actually showed you this. So here's the little 1/2-inch CRT. So let me shut some lights off. It's a little black and white 1/2-inch CRT, and I do actually get a display on it. But watch what happens when I put it in the camera mode. It's very shaky. It's only a 1/2-inch diagonal CRT. Off. There's the camera mode. I just get like a blurb, and that's it. And now I can't turn it back on. I've got to remove power completely, and then power the unit back up. Then I get the little display, no problem. So once again, that's telling me it's got a problem with the switch mode power supply that's built into this camera. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop it apart and see if I see anything, maybe some leaky caps, maybe some bad caps. Okay, the other thing that I notice is with the unit powered up, if I close the door, it actually closes no problem. And it opens perfectly fine. So let me flip it over and I'll show you the LCD display. So there's the LCD display. If I shut the door, it closes with no issues whatsoever. If I switch it off, the counter remains lit. If I switch it to camera, watch what happens to the battery display. So I get a full battery, and then 3/4, 1/4, and it just sits at 1/4, but there's no power to the camera. So it's in the off position right there. And there it's back in the playback position, and I get nothing whatsoever. If I turn the power off and back on, I get a full battery and I get the monitor at that point. I don't get a monitor when I switch it into the camera mode like this. I just see the full battery, and then it diminishes from 3/4 to 1/2 to 1/4, and then that's it. So once again, switching the power off and switching the power back on, it does the exact same thing. Now I've tried this with a different power supply that I'm supplying about 6.5 volts DC to the unit. It does the exact same thing, so I know it's not my power supply that's causing the problem. Okay, so I've got the unit pulled apart, and so this is the digital analog converter right here, and then the Luma process, the Y process. Then over here is the chroma process. And so I just wanted to show you some of these capacitors that are on this board. Look at how many surface mount caps are on this board. And pay particular attention to some of these, how it looks like they're wet on the bottom. Like that one right in the center of your screen. That's a 10 microfarad 16 volt. That is leaking electrolyte on the board. The one right next to it right there in the center of your screen, that one is leaking electrolyte. And you notice all the plate throughs on this board. Every little hole that you see, like just to the right of the 2, that's a plate through. It goes through the circuit board. Now this is not a double layer board. This is a multi-layer board, which means it may have 4 or 5 sets of traces that run through this board. Look at that one. The lead right in the center of your screen, that 10 at 16, the left-hand lead is black. And that's from corrosion, from the leaking electrolytics. So in order to repair this unit, the number one thing I need to do is replace every single electrolytic capacitor on this board. Now keep in mind, this is just one of the boards in the camcorder. Leaking electrolytic right there. I see green on the bottom of that 10 at 16 right in the center of the screen. Leaking electrolytic right there. That 4.7 leaking around the bottom, it's green. That 10 is leaking. So basically every capacitor in this camera would need to be replaced. And then I can't be 100% sure that there's not damage in between the layers on the circuit board. I have had that. Look how wet it is right down in there between that 47 and that 1. And then I see moisture down in here between the two 47s. Just doesn't look good. The lead on the left lead on that 47 is definitely corroded as well. So this is a classic example of what happens with electronics if they're not exercised. I would almost have to say this camcorder has never been used. I looked at the pinch roller in it, and it is actually in pristine condition. But I'm just so worried about the leaking electrolytics. And I worked at a Sony service center for many, many years, and even some of these cameras would come in under warranty with leaking electrolytics. I'd have to repair them. A lot of time I'd have to run jumpers, and in some cases I would have to replace the entire circuit board under warranty. Like that 10 at 16 leaking. You can certainly see the fluid around the lead of that capacitor right there. So let's go ahead and take a look at another one of these boards that has leaking electrolytics on it as well. So this is the camera board where the actual lens is mounted. Look at that 47 at 16. That lead on the left of it is toast. 10 at 16, look at that puddle that's all the way around that thing. That is just bad news. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give the customer an estimate. It's probably going to be, man, I'm going to have to say probably 6 hours of intense labor to replace every capacitor on this board. And I'll have to use original electrolytics. Look at that 10 at 16. The right-hand lead is definitely corroded, and you see a puddle of electrolyte all the way around this thing. Oh, look at that 4.7. Both leads are absolutely toast on it, and you can see it starting to leak through the plate throughs on that board. Absolutely terrible. Let me flip the board over, and I wonder if we can see damage on the other side as well. Okay, here's the other side of that capacitor where that chip is. And look just to the left of where the 7 is on the board, you can actually see a droplet of electrolyte leaking out of that plate through. So I don't trust that circuit board in the least. These things have been severely compromised. And I don't feel good about just throwing parts at it. Now, that coil in the middle of the board right there, I think that's just flux around it. I don't think that's electrolyte that's leaking. But once again, looking down here, that 10 at 16, the left-hand lead, it's just wet with electrolyte. So I think I'm going to just recommend, look at that 10 at 16 right there. It is just wet everywhere. I think I'm going to recommend not repairing this, just because it's going to be so labor intensive, and I can't guarantee that the board has not been compromised. Anyhow, I'll estimate it to my customer and we'll see what he wants to do. Incidentally, this is the switch mode power supply I was referring to. If you look down inside there, there are a bunch of capacitors. I see 2 surface mount electrolytics, and I see a leaded electrolytic. There are many more buried down in here. Because like I said, that is a little switch mode power supply. It takes the 6 volts from the battery terminals right here and converts it to many other voltages for the camera to use out here. So once again, go ahead and I'll estimate it to the customer and we'll see what he wants to do. I don't know if he wants to put any money into this. I'm just, like I said, I'm estimating probably 5-6 hours of labor to replace every capacitor on this unit. Plus, I need to wash the circuit board. And once that's done, I can't guarantee that some of the plate throughs have not been damaged. Anyhow, I think this is probably the end. There might be a part 2. You never know. So hopefully you enjoyed the diagnostic portion of this video and finding all of the leaking electrolytic surface mount capacitors that you can actually see. Once again, some of them might be buried under these little shields right here. I can't be sure. This one's pretty tall, so chances are it might have a capacitor under it. And there are definitely capacitors under here. I've had those fail in the past when I was a Sony authorized warranty service center. Go ahead and leave me a question, a comment, a concern down below, good or bad. I try to respond to the comments when I have time. While you're down there, hit that subscribe button and like this video. It really does help my channel grow. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at NorCal715. You can email me, norcal715videos@gmail.com. Remember, with your help, we can try to keep these things out of the landfill, out of the recycle bin, and out of the e-waste facility. Everybody, thank you for making it to the end of this little diagnostic video. I really do appreciate it. I'll go ahead and tear the other camera apart next. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.